What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Check it out. So you guys are taking a look at the screen right now. All right. And I was looking at a few other shows, whether they're video shows or podcasts. And one of the things that kind of stuck with me was everybody was doing a lot of talking, especially there was a few people that was interviewing Ice Cube, and they were acting real stink with him to a degree. Those who were acting stink with him to a degree. And I just found it odd because they were asking questions as if they nobody's really read anybody's plans, right? So that was one of the big things that kind of just dawned on me, like, yo, nobody's really questioning him about specific details in the plan. They're more looking at the headlines of, oh, he hooked up with Trump, and never doing their research. They just going on with the headlines of things, right? And little snippets without really doing their thorough looking into things. And so what dawned on me was the fact that I was asking myself, saying to myself, well, has anybody even read any of the plans to really say what was in them or what's not in them? What's up with the plans? It just seems like everybody's into the celebrity of things and not really wanting to look into things analytically. So that's what it just came to me like, yo, let me just go on and go over the actual plan or plans of things, right? Let's take a look at that. And then we can, I guess some folks, I'm sure there's a lot of people who haven't actually seen the plan, read the plan. They might have heard the names of them. We'll get into that too. And anything else related within the realms of Ice Cube, Biden, and Trump. All right. So with that being said, man, you're rocking with the best thoughts of the week. Let's get it. United States, Ireland, France, Russia, UK, Sweden, Australia, India, Ghana, Kenya, Botswana, Egypt. Let's go. Thoughts of the week. Thoughts of the week podcast. Rocking with the best. Thoughts of the week podcast. Let's go. Word, that's what's up, man. Before we get into it, I want to say what's up to my viewers watching from LinkedIn, viewers watching from Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and multiple Facebook groups that are checking this out right now. All right. I appreciate y'all for checking out the show. And for those who are listeners to the show, I want to thank y'all for listening in as well and checking out the show on any of the listening platforms. All right. I appreciate that. So, yeah, like I said, one of the things that hit me was that nobody was really talking about the details of the actual plan. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was speaking on the details of the actual plan. Also, I want to shout out to, before we get into it, some folks who might be checking out on Instagram right now. Doesn't look like anybody's in the room. I'm gonna give y'all guys a quick little peek, man. I'm not gonna be on Instagram too long. I'm gonna try to start making the thing a regular habit. All right, so let me see. Give you guys a little sneak peek. There you go. That's the Instagram. Got the cam on the Instagram. All right, there you go. Doesn't look like anybody's come in the room yet on the gram, but like I said, I won't be on there long. If you guys want to get a behind the scenes look, go on Instagram at Norwood_media_vision. All right. And you could get some little behind the scenes look before I shut down the gram. But there you go, real quick. That's me on the gram. There you go. All right. So yeah, let's get into it, man, real quick. So yeah. Again, there's nobody that I know of that really was doing any speaking on the actual details of anybody's plan. And speaking of plans, we're going to try to go over. Don't know if we're going to have just one episode to go over it. I might go over it again on another episode. We'll see. Definitely before the elections hit. But yeah, we'll probably go over that. But we're going to try to go over as much as possible, as much as we can anyway, on the different plans. So Let me see here. Let me start off with Ice Cube's plan. I was gonna go with Trump, but let me go into Ice Cube's plan a little bit. And what I'll do is like we'll be going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? A little back here and there. All right. Let me see here. Let me see what's really popping. One. All right. Let me see if we can go here. Let's go with contract with Black America. All right. There we go. All right. Let me see. Hold on, ladies and gents. We're gonna try to make it do to do. There's some apparent issues here. We're gonna see if there's something else going on here. We're gonna try to access another one. Let's go here. Let's see what happens. All right, there we go. So let's start off. This won't be this isn't the Ice Cube's plan. We're gonna go first because this was gonna be like my surprise, but we'll just get the surprise started early. All right. So this is from Jason Black. If y'all don't know Jason Black, the Black Authority, you need to look that up. Look him up, check him out. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. You can check him out there. Check out his work there anyway. But he may have made this plan roughly around the same time, maybe a little bit earlier or just shortly after Ice Cube's contract with Black America. And since we're going to kind of go back and forth with things, I'm going to try to pull up Ice Cube's plan again in a second and make sure there ain't no funny stuff going on. All right. We want to make sure that. Make sure no funny stuff is going on here. But let's take a look at this plan here. All right. All right. So reparations across the board. All right. The wealth of America was and is based on the economic exploitation of the descendants of American slaves. Black people are in the streets because police violence, white supremacist terrorism, and institutional racism are all in place as a means to ensure prosperity for white people and subjugation of Black people. They hate us because we are Black, but they are able to victimize us because we are poor. I'm going to say that one again. They hate us because we are Black, but they are able to victimize us because we are poor. The poverty is systemic and engineered, not accidental. A lot of people don't want to face that fact and don't want to believe that's even true. They just think these things are happening like just happenstance. But I'm going to read that again. That poverty is systemic and engineered, not accidental. The solution must be systemic and engineered, not accidental. Without addressing these issues, the society itself will fall into total chaos as the bait and switch tactics of deflect and distract now no longer deceive the Black population. I'm going to read that again. Without addressing these issues, the society itself will fall into total chaos as the bait and switch tactics of deflect and distract now no longer deceive the Black population. And I want to say I'm glad that a lot of Black people are actually waking up to that. They're understanding tactics of deflect and distract. And so a lot of people are waking up to that. I'm very happy about that. All right. We require reparations across the board to correct these evils. All right. While only the descendants of American slaves are eligible for reparations, steps to dismantle systemic white supremacy and stop white supremacist violence is a right of all melanated people of Aboriginal African descent. All right. Reparations are not just financial. We require educational reparations to correct the crimes America's schools commit against Black children. I'm going to read that again. Reparations are not just financial. We require educational reparations to correct the crimes America's schools commit against Black children. We require judicial reparations for past crimes, such as the killers of Emmett Till and Trayvon Martin, still walking free, as well as the ongoing crimes of the white supremacist court system to continue de facto chattel slavery. We require political reparations to address how a majority Black area can be ruled over by confirmed white supremacist politicians. All right. So that's like the beginning of everything here. So now I'm going to take a look. We can probably go through these pretty quick, unless I have some commentary about it. And maybe I'll do a couple of these and then maybe switch off to somebody else's plan and just kind of give y'all a look of both plans. So hold on, folks. Let me see something here. Um, let's go back to this contract with Black America, man, and find out for some reason. Let's see if we can get that screen shared on that. Let's try it out again. There we go. All right. So, let me see. Let's take a look at. I'm going to skip the introduction now. We're going into Ice Cube's contract with Black America. I just read a couple of bullet points. I'll put it like that of Jason Black's plan, the reparations plan. All right, we're gonna call it that. Reparations for Black people. Reparations across the board. I'm gonna say reparations for Black people's plan. All right. Let me make sure we got. There we go. And so let's go into Ice Cube. I'm gonna skip the introductions on that and maybe come back to that in a little bit. So let's go to number one, representation. All right. So in this plan, build to guarantee Black opportunity and representation. Adopt a plan of neo-reconstruction to redress past wrongs systemically imposed on Black Americans economically throughout many generations that has resulted in a wealth gap where the average white family has 10 times the wealth of a Black family. In addition to some of the economic initiatives listed below, also formally apologize to Black Americans for past discrimination and slavery. Now, the formal apology, I don't know, I'm not going to make no judgment on it per se. I mean, I might comment on it, but I don't know what would be the benefits of them. I could kind of see as far as like on the principle of the thing, have someone or a bunch of someone's formally apologize to Black Americans for past discrimination and slavery. I could see how that can be from a media standpoint, just the world seeing that. I could see that's kind of that could be a benefit of sorts. But in the short of things, looking at it, I don't know how much of a benefit that would be just to have them apologize as opposed to just dealing with the economic part or economic piece of this. All right. But let's move on. Additionally, Black opportunity and representation will include affirmative action in schools, public and private, per student funding in states on an equal basis instead of paid by local property taxes, Black representation on all government civil rights bodies, civil rights classes mandatory in elementary schools, gerrymandering reform, additional polling places in Black and minority neighborhoods, Juneteenth to become a federal holiday. Now, when I did mention about the trick words of minority, and I've heard Ice Cube mention the same thing himself, like, he's not trying to go over these trick words, meaning minority and people of color. And of course, we want to throw in that word diversity. Those are trick words. All right. Black people think those words mean they talking about Black, but it's just a trick words because they're going to fill in other races. As you heard me read the Black reparations plan, but he's using the word minority in his plan here. So I don't know if it's people or him, maybe, people he has surfing the net watching this, you might want to consider changing that word, because even he himself has even mentioned that he's not going for the trick words of minority and people of color and diversity. So you might want to change the wording on that. But this sounds similar to the first plan that I read, Jason Black's plan, the reparations plan is what I'm going to name it, the Black reparations plan. All right, so we're going to go into number two, since I did two of those of the Black reparations plan. And then I'm just going to do two of each and kind of bounce back and forth. All right. So bank lending reform. Again, this is Ice Cube's contract with Black America. Bank lending will be regulated to require banks to lend a percentage of all loan and credit categories on an equal basis to the Black population each bank serves. However, the minimum threshold must yearly meet the percentage equal to the national Black population, currently approximately 13.4%. Rates on Black loans federally and from banks to be same average rates as whites. Now, I don't know if that 13% is including um, all Black people, including immigrants, the Black immigrants that are over here. I don't know if they're including that or this is just specifically descendants of American slaves, if that's 13% is reflecting that. Let me see what's going on with the Instagram. All right. So what I'm going to do is we're going to switch over to the next plan, and I'm going to close down Instagram right quick. All right. So let me pull up the PDF. Let's go to Trump's platinum plan. We got some things to speak on that. All right. So while we go, I got that on the screen real quick. Let me just shut down Instagram. All right. Be right back. Give me a second. All right. So once again, we on Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, several Facebook groups, podcast groups, as a matter of fact, and LinkedIn, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So let's take a look at Trump's platinum plan, which is a very interesting choice of words. A lot of people, I'm sure, have picked up on that. Kind of has a disrespectful title, like the bling bling. It's kind of interesting how his people, I'm sure his people put him up on that, calling it a platinum plan. But anyway, let's take a look at some things here. Let me scroll down real quick and let me just see how I'm going to tackle these things here. So I'm just going to go over these two here, but let me see what's going on up top here. I guess it's like just the summary of everything. All right, I'm gonna skip here. Maybe we'll come back to this part, and let's just go down to the titles and where the bullet points, and then we'll go to Biden's, and then we'll kind of switch back and forth. Okay, so this is Trump's platinum plan. All right, Black economic empowerment. Interesting for the title, and access to capital. All right, jobs. Reach even greater levels of historic employment. All right, listen to these words now. They want to reach for Black people now. Reach even greater levels of historic employment. Like you want to have everybody on the planet employed and with a job, right? And wage growth for the Black community set in 2019 so that anyone looking for a job gets one. Okay. Seek infrastructure funding that will lead to widespread growth in the annual $500 billion federal contracting opportunities. All right. Seek infrastructure funding that will lead to, so they got to seek it, look around for it, seek infrastructure funding. So if they don't find it, they can say, well, we don't have it, right? That will lead to widespread growth in the annual $500 billion federal contracting opportunities. All right. Grow minority-owned businesses with additional tax cuts to stimulate hiring and investment. Encourage onshoring and development of domestic manufacturing to increase supply chain, business development, and employment. And you kind of lost me with that one. Examine barriers to employment, including fees, occupational licensing, arrest record inaccuracy, and expungement. Okay. How does that help with the black economics? Okay. Anyway, increase activity in opportunity zones, including benefits for local hires. Invest almost 20 billion toward broadband and internet access to create job opportunities, improve classroom connectivity, and the ability to utilize telehealth services. So that's going to help with the black economics for black folks, right? That's the Trump plan, all right? So now I'm going to read the next one. Like I said, I'm going to do two of each and then bounce back. All right, the second one, better and cheaper healthcare. Not free, just better and cheaper. Affordable care you can trust. Reduce cost and improve access to quality healthcare through HRSA. Deliver real price transparency so you know the cost before care is received. Opportunity to be in charge of your own healthcare and choose your own doctor. Well, let me think about that for a second here. In a way, I can already choose my own doctor, so I don't know what that's even about. I could choose from a list of doctors now already. So what's new and innovative in that? I don't know. But anyway, eliminate long-standing healthcare disparities, investments into the causes and cures of kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, sickle cell disease, maternal mortality, and other diseases that disproportionately affect African American populations. So they want to do investments into the causes. So they want to put money into the causes and cures. Using the word cures, very dangerous word in certain realms, in certain companies, of kidney disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, sickle cell disease, maternal mortality, and other diseases that disproportionately affect African Americans' population. All right. Increase access to telemedicine and innovate technologies to empower patients with flexibility and tools for better health. Public-private partnerships to develop healthcare facilities in low-income areas. And lastly, defund religious freedom exemptions to respect religious believers and always protect life. Okay. So I think fueling access to capital, we'll get into that next one. So that's the two right now I'm reading from that. Let's go into Biden's lift every voice. It's kind of not funny or not funny or odd or weird. Maybe you might could say it's weird. Let me see here. Here we go. But it's interesting how they pick these titles that they think stereotype blacks, like the platinum plan and the lift every voice. You know, it's supposed to be like the churchy type of song, lift every voice and sing type. They couldn't come up with nothing a little bit different than this kind of stereotypical type names. But okay, we're gonna look into Biden's. Let me see here. This is a little quick PDF of Biden's. We might look into the website here in a minute. But let's look at Biden. 2-pager on Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African American community. So I already read a couple of Jason Black's Black reparations plan. I read a couple from Ice Cube's A Contract with Black America. I read a couple that had some bullet points of the Trump's platinum plan, and now we into Biden's economic proposals for the African American community. And you can always play this stuff back if you've been paying attention to it while we're live here, or even when you hear the recorded version of this. Just pay attention to what I'm reading and listen to if there's differences or similarities or things that seem like it's way off. So now you have two. Here's another thing too to think about. The first two were written by Black men or put together by Black men, and these last two are put together by, you could just say, white men and their team. All right. The other two, I know Ice Cube has mentioned, he had Claude Anderson, Dr. Claude Anderson, I think a guy named Derek Hamilton, and a host of others, I'm sure. I think Boyce Watkins kind of gave a couple of tips or points for Ice Cube. I'm not sure about Jason Black, if he came up with this himself, or he also got with people as well, gathered the info and put it together. So maybe everybody's have a little team or some input and gather some intelligence and then put the plan together. So keep that in mind too. Listen to it from the Black man's perspective. Two Black men giving their plans, and then the two white men giving their plans. All right, that's another way to look at it. All right, so here's the Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African American community. All right. Policy: Black business / entrepreneur support. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris believe we have to improve access to capital for Black entrepreneurs and business owners. All right. To accomplish this, they will start by leveraging $150 billion in new capital and opportunities. $30 billion will be out of that 150, $30 billion for government funding and $120 billion from private sector, including spurring $50 billion in lending, venture capital, and other supports for entrepreneurs in struggling areas. All right. Keep in mind, I haven't heard anything about reparations on Trump's and Biden's plan thus far. I believe Ice Cube had mentioned reparations in there somewhere. If not, we'll find out in a little bit. All right. So make the new markets tax credit, the NMTC, permanent, and increase funding to $5 billion annually to provide a credit for equity investment in small businesses that benefit low and moderate income areas. Expand the role of community development financial institutions in underserved communities. Now, excuse me, ladies and gents, I'm drinking some water in between every now and then. But that has already grabbed my attention. All right. You say it's a proposal for African American, economic proposal for the African American community. However, you have underserved communities. So expand the role of community development financial institutions in underserved communities by doubling their direct funding. so that they can offer one, microloans to small startups, and two, larger loans to existing small businesses who have the capacity to grow. All right. There's another one I'm already looking at before I started reading it that's going to already catch my attention as well. That's why I wanted to read this stuff for those who haven't got wind of the details. Now, when you put underserved communities, that's not specific enough to Black people, because there could be some underserved communities that contain white people, Hispanic, Asian, who knows, or that can be based on who they determine has underserved communities. So they already messing up right there. All right. Already messing up right there. So let's move on. Here we go. Encourage more lenders to provide loans to Black and brown businesses. Now, remember I spoke on code words. Minorities is a code word. People of color is a code word. Diversity is a code word. Now you have Black and brown businesses. Who are the brown people? You got Black, so you kind of can tell who's that, right? What they're talking about there. Who are the brown people that they're referring to? But yet, at the top of the page, it says 2-pager on Biden Harris economic proposals for the African American community. And even that in itself, African American can be a trick word too, depending on who's saying it, who's using it. Because African Americans can simply mean, that can be broadened out too. So their plan is already, the Biden Harris plan is already starting to fall apart from what I'm looking at, right? What I've been reading. Because even the word African American, yeah, in a general sense, you can assume they're talking about Black people, but really, there's a white people that's in Africa that they can come to America and they can be African American. There's some Dutch people now. Everybody knows or should know there's Chinese people in Africa now. They can come over and say they're African American now. So you already see the little, the Biden Harris economic proposal for African Americans is already falling apart. So again, encourage more lenders to provide loans to Black and brown businesses. Who are the brown people? Are they the Hispanics, the Latinos? Is that who you're talking about? But they don't fit into the American or the descendants of American slaves. They don't fit that. So it's already falling apart, Biden and Harris. And for all those who plan on voting for them, I hope you get this. But anyway, let's move on. Let me just read it again. Encourage more lenders to provide loans to Black and brown businesses by strengthening and expanding the Community Reinvestment Act to apply to more lenders and ensure that lenders invest in all communities. All meaning what? See? So their plan is about playing games already. Commit to equalizing federal procurement by expanding contracting opportunities and technical assistance for small disadvantaged businesses. Reform opportunity zones. That's this word keeps popping up. Opportunity zones. Reform opportunity zones to fulfill their promise by incentivizing them to partner with nonprofit or community-oriented organizations. Their stuff is a bunch of game. Let's go on to home ownership. Create a $15K, which I think is $15,000, down payment tax credit that allows home buyers to access it when they make their purchase instead of waiting to receive the assistance when they file taxes the following year. All right. Spur the construction of 1.5 million homes and public housing units. Spur it. Spur the construction of that. Public housing units. The projects. Is that what you were trying to say? Student debt. Forgiving undergraduate tuition debt from public colleges and private HBCUs and MSIs for Americans earning up to $125,000. Invest over $70 billion in HBCUs and MSIs. All right. Let me look up what this MSIs mean. It might have been in here and I might have missed it. Got to keep up with all these words. I'm not sure what MSIs is here. I'm not sure on that. Maybe we'll get to it. Anyway, healthcare. Protect and build on Obamacare with a new public health insurance option that wouldn't tie your health care to your job. Infrastructure jobs. Looks like it says 2T for trillion. I'm believing that's what it stands for. $2 trillion plan to build sustainable infrastructure and clean energy economy. So infrastructure jobs. Create 5 million manufacturing / innovation jobs in infrastructure, auto, and energy. Upgrade 4 million buildings, weatherize 2 million homes, build 1.5 million sustainable homes, 100% carbon pollution-free power by 2035. Frontline cities get 40% of EJ benefits. All right, so that's the 2-pager of the Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African-American community, which some of it doesn't look like it will be directed to the quote-unquote African-American community. Or, depending on how you look at it, it is correct. They're going to give it to African-Americans because, again, like I said, it could be a play on words, or they can just be serious about those words and who the words are referring to. All right, because African American, people will say that means black, but when you think more analytically about it, because you could look at it in 2 ways. African American can refer to anybody who's stayed in Africa, lived in Africa. It could be an Asian person because they got Chinese people in Africa now. The Dutch, they might have some Dutch people, French people. I'm talking about Caucasian looking folks. Then they can come to America and they can claim African American. So just by naming this, the Biden-Harris economic proposals for the African American community already shows some shadiness about it, right? Already shows some shadiness. So now let's go back to, so I read 2 of everything. Now let's go back to and read another 2 of Jason Black's the Black Reparations Plan. That's what I'm calling it. All right. So we're gonna read 3 and 4. Let me see how many we got here. We got 7. I might just read them all through, but we'll see. All right. So number 3, this is the Black Reparations Plan by Jason Black. Number 3, make dismantling of systemic white supremacy public policy. All right. Make dismantling of systemic white supremacy the system of the white supremacy, make that public policy. Make dismantling it public policy. Put that in policy. All right. Number 3, the tradition of America is to practice white supremacy while pretending that white supremacy doesn't exist. They pretend that they simply don't understand why the wealth gap, income gap, incarceration rate, and healthcare greatly favor white people and consistently penalize black people. They pretend that, right? I'm going to read that again. They pretend that they simply don't understand why the wealth gap, income gap, incarceration rate, and healthcare greatly favor white people and consistently penalize black people. America spent 5 decades pursuing a racially fabricated policy of a war on drugs. Y'all remember that? It's time to make public policy of a war on white supremacy in all its forms. In recent years, if you are a pimp helping women to become prostitutes, you are now classified as a human trafficker. Malcolm X said white supremacist violence should be prosecuted as an international war crime. The fact that pimping has now been elevated to that level, but the original sin of white supremacy has not, is a crime against human decency. That's deep. All right. So number 4. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read the rest of Jason Black's Black reparations plan. So we on number 4. And then we'll go to a little bit of Ice Cube and again, Biden and then Trump. And just listen to the differences or similarities. And then, like I said, it's 2 of them are coming from a black person's perspective, more on that side. And then the other 2 are coming from a more white person's perspective. All right. So let me see. Number 4, white supremacists and police violence is a human rights violation. When China or countries in the Middle East have police execute people based on their race, ethnicity, or political ideology, the United States calls those human rights violations. And the United States has invaded countries for that offense. Now, I'm going to read that one again. I want y'all to pay deep attention to this. When China or countries in the Middle East have police execute people based on their race, just like, black people are being executed based on the black race in America. Well, when China or countries in the Middle East have police execute people based on their race, ethnicity, or political ideology, the United States calls those human rights violations. So before I finish the sentence, then why isn't it human rights violations when it happens in the U.S.? Get the point? So, and the United States has invaded countries for that offense. America didn't listen to excuses from these governments as to why it was acceptable. They didn't listen to China or Middle Eastern countries. They just said, yo, you violating your people's rights. We're going to come in and bomb y'all up. That's what the United States did to other countries. The United States needs to be held to the same standards. America has been using police to terrorize and execute black people with the support of racist district attorneys and judges in order to sustain systemic white supremacy. When you have systemic racial practices, it demands systemic remedies. All right. Number 5, schools can no longer be weaponized against black children. All right. Schools, both public and private, operate on a standard practice of targeting black children from as early as Head Start to remove them from the classroom. The typical strategy is to claim the child has a learning disability, Some of y'all might have heard Umar Johnson mention that. But the typical strategy is to claim the child has a learning disability or a disciplinary problem. So in other words, because for whatever reason the kid or that teacher or somebody might feel the kid might be active or doing one thing or doing another, they're going to automatically start saying, "Oh, they have a disability. They have a learning disability. They can't learn because they're fidgety or they're doing other things." But how do you know? How do you know that's true? But that's based on their mentality, right? That's their mindset on it. Same thing with disciplinary problem. Oh, you have a disciplinary problem. You can't sit still. But again, that's not understanding cultural differences, right? All right. So, and that they are only 3 solutions to the problem. This is how it normally goes, right? Put the child in special education to handicap his learning, put him on psychotropic or psychotropic drugs to alter his brain chemistry, or have him suspended from school and even arrested. That's always the 3 choices they give the black student. This leads to the disproportionate number of black students who drop out of school, which makes them far more likely to end up in prison. White children who express the same behaviors don't receive the same treatment. Homeschooling for capable parents and cultivation of black education academies that meet reasonable education criteria are the best method for addressing white supremacy in the classroom. All right. Number 6. This is of the Jason Black's reparations plan. I'm calling it the Black reparations plan because I don't see an actual title other than it's saying reparations across the board. All right. So I'm just going to say it's the Black reparations plan. All right. Number 6. Remove the prisons, monuments, and physical institutions of white supremacy. Black people pay taxes, and yet our tax dollars do something to us that doesn't happen to anyone else. We are required to pay for white supremacists to sit in front of our courthouses, our schools, our parks, and our city halls. Now that's deep. Something that just keeps going over everybody's head because you're so used to it. Black people pay taxes just like everybody else, right? Right? But the black person's tax dollars does something to them that doesn't happen to anybody else. Okay? It says we are required to pay for white supremacists to sit in front of our courthouses, meaning the statues. I'm sure that's what that means. The different General this, General Lee, and all these white supremacist generals from back in the day. In front of our schools. Some schools have these statues and monuments. Parks have those same statues and monuments, and city halls have all these the flags, racist flags, racist generals and stuff like that as statues. Those tax dollars keep those maintained, and black people's tax dollars are part of the tax dollars, right? So again, we are required to pay for white supremacists to sit in front of our courthouses, our schools, our parks, and our city halls. We have prisons that are set up primarily to serve as the new plantations of America via the 13th Amendment loophole. In a cruel irony, many states are closing schools but building prisons, and the laws are engineered to facilitate this vicious cycle. No black person should have to drive by prison while schools are being closed, nor should they have to go to a city hall, court, or school and walk by the image of a human rights violator, meaning those statues. Symbols of white supremacy belong in a museum, not in the public square. All right. Makes a lot of sense. Number 7 is the last one here. for the reparations plan, the Black reparations plan from Jason Black. Blackchannelfilms.com. You can go there and look at the PDF of what I'm reading. So y'all can go to blackchannelfilms.com and read the reparations plan. All right. Lastly, number 7. Number 7 is 20% of public and private contracts should be reserved for Black business. America has done business strictly along ethnic lines. It has embarked on a sustained campaign of bombing Black business districts like the various Black Wall Streets, as well as using racial regulations to target Black businesses today for destruction. All of this is done to protect white businesses and preserve white economic privilege. To correct this, the public and private sectors that have all profited off of economically disenfranchising Black citizens should repay their debt by instituting a minimum mandatory 20% contracting requirement with businesses that are Black sole proprietorships or are corporations that are 75% Black owned. City contracts, municipal bonds, equity stakes in these private companies, tax credits and or exemptions from taxes owed, land grants, and set-asides, 0% financing, as well as direct cash disbursements are all suitable methods of addressing these debts. The U.S. government was able to instantly agree to allocate $10 trillion to deal with the COVID-19 outbreak. Remember that? So I'm going to read that again, but I'm going to make a point. When they go around saying the government say they don't have any money, always remember this as an example, but I'm sure there's others as well. When they didn't have any money when it comes to Black folks, but when this COVID-19 outbreak came, they came up with $10 trillion. So never forget that. Don't let them tell you don't have no money. The U.S. government was able, I'm going to read this again. City contracts, municipal bonds, equity stakes in these private companies, tax credits and or exemptions from taxes owed, land grants and set-asides, 0% financing, as well as direct cash disbursements are all suitable methods of addressing these debts. The U.S. government was able to instantly agree to allocate $10 trillion to deal with the COVID-19 outbreak of 2020. It did not require a study, a commission, or vote from the general population. It was done because it was deemed necessary. It's an insult to tell Black people that all of a sudden, all types of examinations and delays are needed before we can be given what a virus was given without a thought. Now that's like a mic drop right there, and drop the bomb on them right there. All right. So very disrespectful. But that's the Black reparations plan. That's what I'm calling it, of Jason Black. But the official on here says reparations across the board. And he breaks it down like a 7-point plan. All right. So now let's go read a little bit more of Ice Cube. All right. I'm going to read one from each one. Ice Cube, Trump, and Biden. I'm probably going to end it. I want to go too long tonight. Maybe we'll hit some more because I read all of Jason Black, so it was pretty. And I actually read the economic for Biden, so I actually got 2 of them done. But I'm also going to go to Biden's website and Trump's website here in a minute. But let's go back to Ice Cube's contract with Black America. So I read the first 2. The first one being representation, the second one being lending reform. And by the way, something came to mind. when I was reading the Black Reparations Plan. I hadn't seen anything about loans in here with his plan, but I noticed the Biden Harris economic plan was talking about loans and some other off the wall nonsense, mentioning things that had nothing to do with the descendants of American slaves at all in this. And so let's see here. Let's go to Ice Cube here. Federal funding. Let's hit that up. All right. Past federal program. Federal funding of baby bonds, by the way. Past federal program providing every child with a government funded trust account at birth, starting with $1,000 contribution, as proposed by Senator Booker and Representative Presley. Accounts to be managed by the Treasury, and only those born into lower wealth families would receive more contributions each year, up to $46,500 total. At age 18, access to the funds allowed, but use restricted to asset enhancing actions such as buying homes, starting businesses, and funding education. All right. Let's go at number 4, Federal Reserve and government pensions. All right. For qualified Black Americans, Federal Reserve to allow a one-time interest-free loan for home ownership. The Fed to ensure banks and institutions it oversees comply with bank lending reform. Fed to adopt modern monetary theory with goal of full employment and avoidance of actual inflation. Federal and state pension funds control over $1 trillion. They must allocate 13.4% of their investments into Black-owned enterprises and businesses. Venture capital and private equity funds that take money public entities must invest 13.4% of their total funds in Black-owned businesses. All right. Let me look into, I won't go in order. Let's jump down to something else here real quick. So they have number 7 is prison reform, but then number 9 is Police Reform Act. And number 8 is judicial reform. Yeah, Confederate institutions. Let me read that right quick. Confederate institutions. All right. Elimination of all Confederate statues, because this one sounds similar to the Jason Black's plan. As a matter of fact, let me look at this real quick here. Maybe, let me see. All right, yeah. Let me see here real quick here. All right. So I'm going to read again Jason Black's. I'm going to read Ice Cube's first, and then I'm going to go back to Jason Black to see how they sound similar. All right. This is Ice Cube's contract with Black America. Confederate monuments and institutions. That's the title of it. That is number 11. Elimination of all Confederate statues and uses or displays of Confederate flags on government grounds or property with public access. Rename all streets, schools, public structures, etc., named after Confederate soldiers or leaders. So any streets, schools, public structures that has any Confederate soldiers' names or any Confederate leaders, he's asking that all of that gets removed and renamed to something else, because those Confederate soldiers and leaders represented white supremacy. All right. And it says a memorial will be built in Washington, D.C. to victims of police excessive force. All right. So let me go back to Jason Black's now. It says remove the prisons, monuments, and physical institutions of white supremacy. Black people pay taxes, and yet our tax dollars do something to us that doesn't happen to anyone else. We are required to pay for white supremacists to sit in front of our courthouses, our schools, our parks, and our city halls. We have prisons that are set up primarily to serve as the new plantations of America. via the 13th Amendment loophole. In a cruel irony, many states are closing schools but building prisons, and the laws are engineered to facilitate this vicious cycle. No black person should have to drive by prison while schools are being closed, nor should they have to go to a city hall, court, or school and walk by the image of a human rights violator. Symbols of white supremacy belong in a museum, not in the public square. All right. So there's some similarities between those two. All right. So let me jump to Trump's plan real quick. I read the thing. I didn't even put it on the screen for you guys real quick. Sorry about that. I'll put it on the screen just for a second there. That's what we was reading. There you go. Real short. I'll read it again. Elimination of all Confederate statues and uses or displays of Confederate flags on government grounds or property with public access. Rename all streets, schools, public structures, etc., named after Confederate soldiers or leaders. A memorial will be built in Washington, D.C. to victims of police excessive force. Now that's interesting there because they have other type of memorials like if I'm not mistaken, like maybe had CIA operatives who died in the line of duty, military. I think they have police who died. So they're saying even put memorials up in Washington, D.C. that reflect the victims of police excessive force. Those who died, and George Floyd would be put on that memorial in D.C. for just doing excessive things, unnecessary excessive force. That I forgot the guy's name that was recently killed as well because the bag was over his head. I think up north, maybe northeast. I think he was naked, and I think it turned out that he was suffocated. So his name would be on the memorial built in D.C. So that's interesting as a reminder for everybody. That's interesting. All right. So let's go into Trump's real quick here. Let's read a little bit more on him, on his plan, his platinum plan. All right, let's scroll down here. I already read the Black economic empowerment and access to capital. They have no details in that. Just kind of a shell of things and nothing of substance at all. Safety and justice. Let's look at this one. Safe streets. Continue to make historic improvements to the criminal justice system through common sense actions like the First Step Act, including increased use of drug rehabilitation versus drug incarceration. Announce a national clemency program to unite families and invest in human potential, focusing on wrongful prosecution and rehabilitation. Restore safety to America's great cities by working with police departments. Restore safety now to Americans' great cities by working with police departments, community leaders, and mental health professionals to install the most responsive, professional, and accountable models of policing, including diversity training and accreditation standards. All right. Before I go into this last point of the safety and justice part, or safety and justice piece of that, you could put a lot of police in these diversity training programs, but you're not going to remove what's inside of somebody, what's already in this. It's already been said, it's already been broadcasted by the FBI that there are white supremacists embedded in different police departments. There are also police departments that I think one is called the Executioners. They have their own gang names. There are actual gangs inside of police departments. The Executioners, I think there's some Vikings, I think. And by sending them to a diversity training, that's not going to remove their mindset that they already have embedded in them. That's not going to change them. And if you wanted to, I'm not giving it, but if you wanted to give a benefit of the doubt, you might have one person in there that might change, that might decide to change his or her ways. But you're not getting a whole, because you're going to send a police department to diversity training. That stuff has been embedded in them since they were children. And now they just grew up and became police officers and acting out their behaviors with impunity, right? So that plan, that part of the plan, Trump, I don't see that how that's going to work. But we'll move on. Advance second chance hiring to get rehabilitated citizens with a criminal record back on the job. Okay. Let me go to Biden's website here, the Lift Every Voice website. All right. Because I guess more of the plan is on there. Lift Every Voice, the Biden plan for Black America. They over there asking for donations at the bottom of the screen. Let me see if I can pull up some stuff. Okay. The Biden plan for Black America will advance the economic mobility of African Americans. There goes that word again. You can play with the word African Americans and close the racial, wealth, and income gaps. All right. Expand access to high quality education and tackle racial inequity in our education system. Make far reaching investments in ending health disparities by race. Strengthen America's commitment to justice. Make the right to vote and the right to equal protection real for African Americans. Strengthen Americans' commitment to justice. And this is supposed to be the Lift Every Voice, the Biden plan for Black America. Interesting. Okay, let me go down some more. All right, I read that. Make the right to vote and the right to equal protection real for African Americans. And then address environmental justice. Okay. Let me see. Advance the economic mobility of African Americans and close the racial wealth and income gaps. Invest in African American businesses and entrepreneurs. Approximately 4% of small business owners are African American, even though African Americans make up approximately 13% of the population. Is only 4% of the small business owners. To build wealth in African American communities, we must invest in the success of African American businesses and entrepreneurs. You telling us that, but you not putting details on it. Ensuring equal access to credit and capital. African American, this is Biden's Lift Every Voice piece, by the way. African American businesses often lack the capital they need to succeed. African American businesses are rejected at a rate nearly 20% higher than the white-owned firms. Even worse, African American businesses that do get funding receive only 40% of the funds requested as compared to 70% for white businesses. To increase investment and access to capital, Biden will double funding for the state Small Business Credit Initiative. The Obama-Biden administration created the state Small Business Credit Initiative to support small businesses, driving $10 billion in new lending for each $1 billion in the state's Small Business Credit Initiative funds. Biden will extend the program through 2025 and double its federal funding to $3 billion, driving close to $30 billion of private sector investments to small businesses, all told, especially those owned by women and people of color. There you go. That's the trick bag, right? I'll scroll back up here and you see the title yourself. Lift Every Voice, the Biden Plan for Black America. But then when we go down here and read some of this stuff, he's already talking about owned by women, could be white women, black women, Asian women, and people of color. Well, Indians from India are people of color. Brazilians, Venezuelans can be looked at as people of color. But this is supposed to be for the African Americans, right? So the game begins. It's the same old trick bag. It's no need for me even reading the rest of this stuff. But I say if you guys want to go over it yourself, because I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to stay on here for no 2 hours this time around. Maybe on another subject. But you can go to JoeBiden.com. You can go to DonaldTrump.com. You can go to contractwithblackamerica.us. And you can go to blackchannelfilms.com and you can get all of their plans, the different plans. I had one more from somebody, not somebody I know anything like that, but I was looking at a video and there was a black guy who had a plan in a PDF form and I downloaded it, but for some reason I couldn't find it quick enough to put it on here. Then I would have gave you 5 different plans. But maybe down the road, I might bring it back up. And if I find it, we might talk about that as well. All right. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I went over some of this stuff here. I don't think I'm going to do another part 2 on this. You guys I read enough of it pretty much to give y'all guys a good idea anyway. All right. So it should definitely bring some folks up to speed. It might spark others to want to go ahead and really look into it by going to their websites and checking it out. Now with the Ice Cube, the website for Black America, contractwithblackamerica.us. If you scroll down, I don't know if you scroll all the way down to the bottom. No, maybe not even a quarter of ways. You will be able to click on, because I think he has Biden and Trump's plan so on there, so you don't even necessarily have to go to Biden or Trump's site. You can just click on their plans from the contract with blackamerica.us and get to see it there. But you can also go to the site. It'll still be a good idea to check out the site as well. I don't think some of this stuff I read already from the PDF is on Trump's site. So, but again, I'll say go to JoeBiden.com. Go to DonaldJTrump.com. Go to contractwithblackamerica.us. And again, when you go to contractwithblackamerica.us and scroll down a little bit, he already has Biden and Trump's plan where you can click on the link and actually look at their plan. So if you don't want to necessarily go to the JoeBiden.com or the DonaldJTrump.com, you can just go to contractwithblackamerica.us and look at Ice Cube's Contract with Black America. Then you can scroll down and click on and look at Biden's campaign plan for Black America and Trump's campaign plan for Black America, all on one site. Then you can go to blackchannelfilms.com and you can check out the reparations plan, which is called Reparations Across the Board. All right. And you can analyze those and see what's really going on and be a little bit more knowledgeable of the plans that whenever you get in a conversation with somebody, you'll be able to bring out some points about what you read. All right. And of course, you can always check out this video, or listen to the many platforms where Thoughts of the Week podcast will be playing that you see on the screen there. And you can listen to it as well. All right. So you're going to get the information from a lot of different sources where you can be up to speed on some things. And, again, you can use that whenever you get in conversation with folks and people start saying things about the plans and you've read some of it. Then you could tell them if they're BSing with you or they're telling the truth about what's in the plans or they're trying to slight the words that's in the plans. All right. That's why it's important to read and get knowledge, read for knowledge, read to interpret, and think critically and to be analytical what you read. So you can read in between the lines and read the nonsense, like some of the stuff I was reading to you guys and breaking it down, like when I've picked out different parts of the Biden plan where they saying it was black for blacks or African Americans, and then they mention black in certain parts, but then they start talking about black and brown. They start talking about people of color. They start talking about women and stuff like that when the plan is supposed to be for black. So when you read, then you can start picking out stuff like that and see the games that's being played. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gents, I appreciate y'all for coming in, checking out Thoughts of the Week podcast. All right. And we definitely will see you again on another episode. All right. So until then, you rocking with the best. Thoughts of the Week. I'm out. Peace. United States, Ireland, France, Russia, UK, Sweden, Australia, India, Ghana, Kenya, Botswana, Egypt. Let's go. Thoughts of the Week. Thoughts of the Week podcast. Rocking with the best. Thoughts of the Week podcast. Let's go.